Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody to meeting number 16 of the Government Management Committee. For those of us in the room, there's usually a screen in the back corner that provides real-time updates. The screen hasn't had enough coffee yet this morning, so it's not working, much like my GO train that I took. Online, you can follow the agenda and debate on your computer, tablet, or smartphone at www.toronto.ca/council. I would also like to remind everybody the Government Management Committee gratefully acknowledges its meeting on the traditional territory, the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat, and the home to many diverse Indigenous peoples. And I would also like to announce the City of Toronto today has 227 data sets published currently on the City of Toronto portal. Added to those, there's now 1,556 data files for the second year in a row. Toronto has also placed second on the 2016 Open Cities Index of 20 Canadian cities ranked in order of their use of open data to encourage the development of open, transparent, and accountable data. Well done, Mr. Meekum.
Thank you.
We will now go through the agenda. Are there any declarations of interest under the Ontario Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Can I have a motion to confirm the minutes of our meeting of October 20th, 2016? Councillor McConnell's moving. All in favor? Carried. The green sheet has a list of speakers for each of the items. Communication reports. There is a letter on GM 16.10 in front of you from the Toronto Neighbourhood Centres. And we will now go through the agenda. So our first two items, 16.1, apportionment of property taxes of November 14th, 2016, is a 9:45 hearing. Number two is also a 9:45 a.m. hearing, cancellation, reduction, and refund of property taxes as of November 14th, 2016. Item number three, the Corporation of the City of York Employee Pension Plan, York Actuarial Valuation as of December 31st, 2015.
Yes, I'll move it.
Councillor Nunziata is moving that. All in favor? Carried. Number four, progress on the merger of the City of Toronto pre-OMERS pension plans. Nobody else wants to hold that. I'm going to hold it. Number four. I'm holding that. Number five, purchasing and materials management review strategy for Councillor Davis wants to hold number five. Councillor Davis can hold number five. Number six, update on the Cogeco contract status. Councillor Grimes is moving the item. All in favor? Carried. Would you like to hold it to read the purple sheets? Councillor Davis would like to hold number six. So I need a motion to reopen number six. Councillor Davis is holding number six. Number seven, proprietary information technology maintenance and support contract renewals and amendments. Councillor Grimes is moving the recommendations. All in favor? Carried. Number eight, use of the Province of Ontario's volume license agreement for the procurement of Microsoft licenses from SoftChoice LP and Microsoft Canada. Councillor Grimes is moving the staff recommendations on number eight. All in favor? Carried. Number nine, request for proposal number 9105-16-7219, group home and auto insurance for entrusted city employees and council members. Anybody else? All in favor? Councillor Grimes is moving. Carried. Number 10, award of request for proposal number 0203-16-0091 to TBM Service Group Incorporated for custodial services for various city divisions. Okay, there's deputations. Number 11, award for request proposal number 3401-16-3008 for credit/debit card payment processing services. Councillor Grimes is moving number 11. All in favor? Carried. Number 12, amendment to contract number 2015 for the Union Station Revitalization Projects, stages 2 and 3. Sorry? Councillor McConnell is moving number 12. All in favor? Carried. Number 13, amendment to the below market rent lease agreement with the NIA Center for the Arts Incorporated at 524 Oakwood Avenue in Ward 15. Councillor Nunziata is moving number 13. All in favor? Carried. Congratulations, Councillor Nunziata, for continuing your work there. Number 14, the extension of the below market rent sublease agreement at 1761 Shepherd Avenue East with the AWIC Community and Social Services. Councillor Grimes is moving number 14. All in favor? Carried. Number 15, conveyance of 215 Rainy Avenue and a portion of Leadlade Lane to the Toronto Community Housing Corporation for inclusion in the Lawrence Allen Revitalization Project. Councillor Nunziata is moving number 15. All in favor? Carried. Number 16, transit shelter property acquisitions. Anybody? Councillor Grimes moving number 16. All in favor? Carried. Number 17, there's a deputant on the feasibility of consideration of creating a City Hall store. And number 18, 1 Yorkgate Boulevard, North York, new lease for employment and Toronto Employment and Social Services Office. Councillor Grimes moving number 18. All in favor? Carried. And number 19, rear door passenger mirrors on city fleet vehicles. I have a motion to defer that. No, the deputant removed his name. Sorry. Number 19, Mr. Glavich removed his name from that item. And Councillor DeBearmaker sent me a request to defer this meeting. To amend. That the General Manager of Fleet Services be requested to examine the feasibility of requiring rear door passenger mirrors on all city fleet vehicles and report to the April 3rd, 2017 Government Management Committee meeting. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Thanks, Carol. All right, so we are back to item number 10, award a request for proposal number 0203-160091 to TBM Service Group Incorporated for custodial services. Oh, sorry. That's her job.
Sorry.
We're going back to the public meetings.
Here we go. Sorry.
That's her job, Rob.
Who's busy? I'm selfie.
Could have helped the Tiger Cats last night. So we're now going to go to item number 1, the apportionment of property taxes as of November 14th, 2016. Okay, I have one amendment. If nobody else has questions of staff on this item, the Government Management Committee approved the apportionment of property taxes in the amounts identified in Appendix A and Appendix B under the columns entitled Apportion Tax and Apportion Phase-In / Capping, excluding the following applications: Ward number 6, 14 Gort Avenue, and Ward number 27, 133 Hazelton Avenue. Councillor Grimes is supporting it fully. All in favor? Carried. Item is amended. All in favor? Carried. Mr. Rossini, we're on item number 2 now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Item number 2, cancellation, reduction, or refund of property taxes as of November 14th, 2016. I'm moving the following amendment. The Government Management Committee approve the individual tax appeal applications made pursuant to Section 325 of the City of Toronto Act, resulting in tax reductions excluding phase-in/capping amounts as provided in the detailed hearing report marked as Appendix A, Appeal Number 2015000369 in Ward 36 at 58 Harding Boulevard. And also, the Government Management Committee approved the individual tax appeal applications made pursuant to Section 325 of the City of Toronto Act 2006, resulting in the tax reductions excluding phase-in/capping amounts identified in the detailed hearing report, excluding the following applications. Appeal number 2016001028 in Ward 6 at 11 Towns Road. Appeal number 2016001029, also 11 Towns Road, both in Ward number 6. Councillor Grimes, do you have any questions? You're good? All right. All in favor? Carried. Item is amended. All in favor? Carried. We are now on to item number 10. Award of request for proposal number 0203-160091 for the TVM Service Group Incorporated for custodial services for various city divisions. We have 5 deputants. Before everybody starts, I just want to let you know the way it works is you have 5 minutes to make your deputation. Anyone on this committee, starting with outside councillors, can question each deputant for up to 5 minutes. Then we bring in the committee where we can also question each deputant for up to 5 minutes. And then we move to questions of staff from there. So the first speaker is Dina.
Sorry.
Councillor
Point of
McConnell.
Order, yes. I believe the deputants were coming for 10:30, and so they're not here. I'm wondering if we can just defer this for a few minutes and move on to the other items. Would that
okay.
be okay with you?
Okay.
Is that okay with everybody? You're not here for that, okay? Is that
Okay.
all right? Sorry about that, they've been called in.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, I think that we have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our next item is feasibility considerations of creating a city hall store. We have one deputant, Mr. Miroslav Glavich. Morning, Mr. Glavich. Welcome to City Hall. You have 5 minutes to speak whenever you're ready. Ready, set, go.
Okay. From what I remember from last time I spoke on this idea, it's going to be, what's it called, here in this building, Nathan Phillips Square. Most people in Toronto are not going to come downtown just for a Toronto T-shirt. You can make one on Sassel.com. An idea would be to open as smaller stores in each of the civic centers. And I know the library had their T-shirts, which I have about 10 of them. And you know this pen everybody has, nobody's going to cares about that. Most versions of the City Hall store is just T-shirts and hats. This is, you all see this beanie bag? Where's my phone? Hold on.
We sold beanbags?
This is just an example of other things. Councillor Ainsley. Let's say this is my phone. You see? You know, there's other alternatives than just T-shirts. For example, the library T-shirts, nobody bought them or cared, and except me. I have like 10 of them, seriously. And there's a store at the reference library branch, which Councillor Davis and Ainsley are aware of. Nobody ever goes there. 1 or 2 people ever, you know. There should be variety of items when city staff searches for this. For items to sell should be more than just T-shirts. This, You know, on your phone charger, you can customize it and put the City of Toronto logo or whatever. And please don't just have T-shirts with just a CN Tower. This is a traditional city, Toronto our logo, but there's more to Toronto than just a CN Tower, you know? Do different things, the Scarborough Bluffs, whatever things in Etobicoke, North Street, there's different ideas, you know? You can even do the, let's call that storage thing, holder, you know, on cell phones that they have at the back, different things, things like that, you know? That's it, thank you.
Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Glavich. Questions, staff from outside councilors? Councilor McMahon.
Hi there, good morning, everyone. Thank you for letting me in your friendly committee. I just had a question. Could it be, it says you're coming back in the first quarter of 2017. Could that be early in the quarter?
Through the chair, it actually is pretty tight based on the work we're doing on the downtown squares. We wanted to bring the report together with this piece. We thought it was complementary. So Q1 was the timeline that we were dealing with. We actually would like to come in early, but we just can't based on all the other requirements at this point.
So it's mid to late quarter.
Plus, we're doing consultation, public consultation through the process too, so it is important.
Appreciate that, thanks.
Okay. Other questions so we'll bring it into committee. Any questions of staff on this item? None? Councillor McMahon, did you want to speak? You're good? Councillor Grimes is moving receipt. All in favor? Carried. That's my question again. We did that one. We went on. Number 4. Oh, my motion's not ready yet, number 4. Okay, so number 4, my motion's not ready yet. Councillor Davis, you held item, number 5?
I'm
we
happy to
pass?
let it go. No, it's number 6, Cogeco.
Okay, right, Councillor Davis down. Councillor Davis, you held number 6, update on Cogeco contract status.
Yeah, I'm happy to
You're happy to move the
move
recommendations?
the recommendations.
All in favor of the recommendations on number 6, update on Cogeco contract status? Councillor Davis is moving it. Carried.
It's 5, yeah, sorry. It's 5.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Councillor Davis held number 5 as well. Councillor Davis, purchasing materials management review? You held that one as well.
I was trying to understand, well, first of all, I have to say what category management and strategic sourcing is. Just a really brief explanation.
Category management is the idea of focusing on a particular good or service you're buying and applying a framework around the approach, including how you might strategically go about acquiring it, how you would manage those contracts underneath it, how you would manage and develop supplier relationships underneath. And it is done under a structure that you're to learn from it as you move through. So it's not just we go out and buy it and we don't think about it again. We're trying to think strategically about how we buy it. The difference between strategic sourcing and category management is strategic sourcing is that lower level when we say, okay, now it's time to go buy. How are we going to go do it? It's a subset.
Okay. And so how is this going to change the organization? I can see that you're going to hire these key management jobs that are in these various categories. But other than that, how else is the department getting reorganized?
So there's 2 parts. You're right with respect to the category leads that will be developed. That will introduce the strategic view of actual procurement versus the transactional view that we do right now, i.e. we're trying to get ahead of the curve and put strategy against the procurement process. The other changes are with respect to a unit called Corporate Procurement Policy and Quality Assurance. Right now, that unit is going to be reorganized to provide more focus on policy development, compliance, and training. And it'll spin off some of its current functions to other units in purchasing so that we can get it more focused in on this policy development, which is what purchasing and materials management actually lacks at the moment. We have very limited resources on policy development.
So is the notion that we're going to consolidate purchasing more? Is that the idea?
That could be one way to do strategic sourcing is do more aggregation of demand. However, it depends on the category. So some things might make sense to bring it all together. Some things might be to bring it into buckets so that it's not, so that there's, you're not dependent upon one vendor. It all depends on the particular commodity, and the strategies might change over time.
And what is it that we're expecting? I mean, can you give us what it is that's going to be in the budget? Not the dollars, but you make reference to some decision-making coming through the budget. So this report doesn't ask us to give any direction or make any decisions, which surprises me because I thought that any changes to the division, service levels, approaches, all of that would be done through this committee. But it's not. Your recommendations for action are going to the budget committee. Is that right?
Through the chair, this is an information report on the program overview. Through the budget, we will be looking at dollars to implement the, bring in a consultant and help us change purchasing to become more strategic.
It's so hard to understand it because of the language. You don't give me any real examples in here of how this is changing. Will there be impacts on jobs?
Through the chair, this plus the supply chain management should automate certain things. However, we haven't got detail on job impacts when it's fully implemented at this point.
You're going to, so there's no anticipated job loss in this reorganization?
At this point, the expectation is the same with shared services with other organizations like Plexus, where we're actually increasing jobs and becoming more strategic and saving money on the actual spend on the contracts.
What is Flexus?
Plexus is the organization that looks after procurement for, I think it's about 12 local hospitals.
Okay. What's that got to do with the city?
It's like the city, they aggregated things and brought in technology to be able to do things more strategically.
Okay. And so this notion is you are going to bring, did this arise out of the efficiency studies that were done in 2012?
Through the chair, this arose from the shared services study during that same
Okay.
time period.
Oh,
Don't heckle the staff. Oh. Counselor, or Mr. Rossini's just upset about the score in the football game last night still. Any other questions of staff on this item? Speakers? Counselor Davis?
I'll just move that we receive it. And I look forward to whatever recommendations relate to this in the budget process. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the recommendations on this item on GM 16.5, Purchasing and Materials Management Review? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, so we have 2 items left. I held 4. I have a motion. I'm not sure if it's done yet. Number 4, number 10? Fine tuning my motion. Sorry, does anybody have any questions on number 4 other than myself? Nope, okay. So I wanted to start by asking, sorry, who am I asking questions on this of?
Sorry, what item are we on?
We're on number 4, pre-owners plan. Okay,
Mike.
all right. So I wanted, so this originally goes back to 2010,
Correct.
and we had, in 2011, we had a work plan as part of the report, and I don't see that the work plan's been updated since 2011.
There was a work plan brought to June GMC. That was the work plan we were working on, which would have included us having a detailed business case from OMERS in November of this year, right now.
Okay, but I didn't see it as part of this report. So we did a work plan in 2011, which seems much more detailed than what's here now.
Yes, I should have included the work plan from June of this year with this. However, this supersedes that work plan in that OMERS, we dealt with them. They're looking at this. They actually have a team on board, and as late as Friday, they were sending me information in that we expect to meet with their team in December. And early in the new year, we expect to get some numbers from OMERS.
Okay, so you're still getting new information from them as of Friday?
Correct.
Okay, I was trying to understand, there wasn't much information in the report or details on this concept of a pilot project. So we have 5 pre-OMERS plans. There wasn't a lot of detail on why police and York pension plans were selected as pilot projects.
That's
It just said they were picked.
And we chose both of those because both of those had not had increases in a long period of time. And both of those would be easier to bring in quicker because the benefit of going to OMERS would be an easy sell to members in both of those plans.
Okay,
We expected detail from OMERS by this time, but because there was some back and forth, and we had to get OMERS on side again, that this was a good thing, it's taken us to this point. They are on side. They have met with Fisco. They are looking at this, and we expect in the new year to have some real numbers that we can look at that would tell us and the members the benefits of the merger.
okay. Sorry, you'll have some real numbers
They're saying in the spring, so Q1.
Q1, okay. And I was trying to understand this concept of a risk premium. I've never heard of that before.
I'm saying the same thing to them in that if we are giving it to them with a true-up, what risk are they taking? So you're speaking to the converted on the fact that a risk premium isn't something required. It's something they've talked about. They haven't told us what that is, but we don't expect it to be anything.
Okay. Yeah, so that one kind of caught my eye. The other, so I'm trying to understand, so I understand the pilot. What was the other question I had? So meetings with the Financial Service Commission of Ontario and the Canadian Revenue Agency. I thought that our staff were included in those meetings before when this first started in 2011. And in the report, I only see a reference to OMERS staff meeting with them. So I'm a little concerned that with our 5 pension plans, we continuously top them up and put money into them. I thought we would have staff in those meetings again.
And they have asked us if we would like to attend, and we have said yes. They had to meet with them before on a number of things, which they did last week. And certainly, they have invited us to future meetings. We don't anticipate Fisco or CRA being an issue, but OMERS is doing their due diligence on this.
Yeah, and I think it's important, is it not, that from our side of the table, that we have staff in the room during those discussions?
Yes, because we don't anticipate there being an issue. We want to make sure that they aren't.
Okay, and then the other question that I have in terms of asking for an updated version of the 2011 analysis, there's discussion at different points in this report about merger options, but it only talks about one at different points. So if possible, we could get in the next report, or when this is updated, a more comprehensive explanation of what the merger options are and demographics?
We will do that, and we will also include what was here in 2011, what was here in June, and where we will be at the beginning of 2017.
Okay, all right. Should I keep talking? Sorry, Councilor Davis, you have a question?
Could you just explain the true-up model and why you're not opposed to it?
The true-up model is OMERS pricing us based on an existing discount rate, based on mortality, based on inflation, based on cost to administer. And for what they're saying is probably years 5 and years 10, we will look at what the actual facts were, and if there is a benefit to the city, they will pay us back, and if there is a benefit to OMERS, they will ask for us to pay that in. And the view was OMERS, as a multi-employer plan, did not want to take any risk into the system, and rather than pay them a risk premium, which would probably end up giving them a lot more money, we were willing to hold that risk that we have right now to get better pricing, to get better benefits to the members, and wind them up, merge them now.
So, okay, so you've kind of answered the second question, because if we're taking on the same risk or liability associated with the plans, what's the benefit of joining OMERS?
OMERS right now can do actuarial evaluations on a going concern basis and fund that way. The city does not have that option, such that all of our plans right now are in actuarial surpluses on a going concern basis. However, on a solvency basis, we have some deficits, which the city has to fund in the interim. Going to OMERS, they have a higher discount rate. They have the ability to do going concern valuations. Therefore, we avoid some of the issues we have with our plans. Plus, they have qualified investment managers, and they have administration. This is their core business.
Okay, but but the liability associated with I don't understand, if they use a going concern valuation instead of a solvency valuation, it means they will, how is that relevant to how much we would be liable during or with a true-up?
Well, with interest rates the way they are right now, a solvency basis valuation uses interest rates at about 1.5% and assumes we annuitize everybody out right away. Therefore, you show deficits because you've got a low percentage and you're paying everything off. With a going concern, the assumption is that the plan will stay in place until the last benefit is paid out, which is what will happen. As a result, the true-up will be based on a going concern as well. And it will be based on 4 factors: based on a discount rate, based on administration, based on mortality, and I never should have said 4 because I can't think of the other one right now.
But how is that beneficial to us then?
It's beneficial to us in that we don't have to worry about funding on a solvency basis, and we can
Well, we don't
We
have
can
to
transfer
know.
management to an organization that does this as part of their core business, whereas it's a declining business for us in that each year we have fewer members and fewer dollars to deal with.
But we do valuations on a solvency basis only when we choose. And I thought we were choosing not to.
No, every year we must do an actuarial valuation, and we do it on both a going concern and a solvency basis. And once every 3 years at least, we must file those with Fisco and pay if there is a deficit.
So how will that be different if it's merged with OMERS?
OMERS will do valuations every year as they do, and every 5th year, a valuation will be done on a going concern basis, and if it's better, the city enjoys that benefit. If it's worse than anticipated, the city will have to pay in the amount that it's worth, and that's the only basis OMERS will entertain a merger.
Other than they have the expertise and the capacity to do it, the costs are the same. Is that correct?
The cost should be cheaper if it's an organization that does this as part of their core business.
And they wouldn't charge us for that function? No.
We haven't gotten into the details yet as to what discount rate they're going to use, what costs of administration. That is all information we expect to get in early 2017.
Okay, we're not committing to anything today, or we have not committed to anything up until this point.
Correct, just to continue negotiations.
And provide information, disclosure.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Are there any other questions on this item? Speakers? So I have one long motion to move. It started off short and then it got longer. Do I have to read this whole thing? So I'm just going to work my way through it. The City Council requests OMERS to provide an updated 2011 work plan as was contained in Council's 2011 report. So this whole process of the 5 pre-OMERS plans goes back to 2010. You know, we're trying to protect our pensioners. This has gone back. The reason this has taken so long is we've had some amendments that had to be done at the province. So it's taken much longer than I thought it would, and I think our staff at OMERS, it's very complicated. There's a lot of legalities in here. The demographics and the membership of these plans have changed since 2011, so I would like an update on the report. Number 2 is basically requesting OMERS to make sure that our staff, because there are negotiations over this with the Financial Service Commission of Ontario and the Canadian Revenue Agency. So number 2 is basically saying allowing our staff or permitting our staff to be in those meetings to make sure that our pensioners are protected. There was an item in the report that said, talked about the police and the York pension plans being used as pilot projects. I would just like that explained in written form. Number 4, sorry, that was number 4. Number 3, requested Treasurer and OMERS to report back to the Government Management Committee on the reasons both parties have agreed neither entity has enough resources to manage this together, as contemplated in the 2011 report. And number 5 is basically the information that I asked about staff earlier, making sure it's included in the preliminary analysis update and that our staff report back in the first quarter of 2016. Sorry. Q2. So I'm just going to amend number 5 to report back in Q2. Yes. Sure.
Okay, if I can ask staff to comment on the motion, if there's any issues that you're...
Rob, just,
Through you, Mr. Chair, all those were items that we were going to work on. The only issue, and I was just telling the chair, is if we want information based on year-end for 2016, we probably won't get that information till the end of Q1. So we'll need Q2 to be able to report back. Mike, do you have any other comments?
Through the chair, number 1 refers to the 2011 work plan, and I know OMERS would want to also talk to the June 2016 work plan they brought here.
Okay. So we'll include both. So our work plan and the OMERS.
One as presented to GMC June 2016.
Okay.
That's what we're supposed to.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? All in favor?
Sorry, just, so
Yep.
we're adding the work plan in number 1, we're adding the 16, that's in there,
Yes.
and the other one, what was the other change request?
So in motion number 5, I wanted them to report back in the first quarter of 2017. The CFO, Mr. Rossini, is saying 5A, it's too soon to report back on the information as of December 31st, 2016.
Staff are okay with it?
Q2.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Item is amended, all in favor? Carried. And now we have, can we start with number 10? Okay, we're on our last item, GM 16.10, award of request for proposal number 0203-160091 to TBM Service Group Incorporated for custodial services for various city divisions. Our first speaker is Dina Ladd, coordinator of the Workers' Action Center. Ms. Ladd here?
Yes.
Morning. And just to let everybody know, so we have 5 minutes to address the committee. We can each individually ask you questions for up to 5 minutes, and then we bring it into what's called bring it into committee, where we ask questions of staff for up to 5 minutes individually, and then we can each speak for up to 5 minutes and move motions on this item. So you have 5 minutes to start whenever you're ready. And welcome to City Hall.
All right, thank you very much. I am with the Workers' Action Center. The Workers' Action Center is an organization that works with workers who don't have a union and who are in contract jobs, temp jobs, and precarious types of jobs. And I think the reason why I'm here today is to really, I guess, urge the need for the development of the job quality assessment tool if the city is actually looking at contracting out, which of course is up for discussion today. I think it's really important that we understand the wider context in which this issue is being dealt with. First of all, just even in terms of the city's own poverty reduction strategy, recommendations were made to the city about becoming a living wage employer and requiring city contractors to pay living wages and to advocate for stronger employment standards that protect employees given the current labor market realities, and also understanding sort of the quality of decent work and that the city can take a huge leadership in that. I think it's really quite critical that this tool gets developed and assessed, especially with contracting out. Right now, our entire province is engaged in a conversation through the Changing Workplace Review, where the Employment Standards Act, the Labour Relations Act is being reviewed in regards to precarious employment. And the special advisors that have been appointed are clearly saying that it's in order to deal with issues of poverty, in order to deal with issues of quality of life in this city and in this province, the concepts of decent work are quite critical in ensuring that public monies goes towards the development of jobs that are decent. I have with me a study, in some ways quite sort of very similar to sort of the issues of cleaning, where a study was done looking at the contracting out of hospital support jobs for workers' families in BC. And What we saw there in terms of the sort of direct impact of contracting out was that 8,000 hospital job workers were laid off. Many of them were cleaning jobs, and wages went from $18 to $20 an hour to a minimum of $9 to $12. Benefits were reduced or eliminated, and 74% earned less than $30,000 a year. And this understaffing and the contracting out led to an intensification of work, higher health and safety risks for workers, and poor quality cleaning for patients. And so I think that what's really critical here is that we look at a tool to assess the quality of work, and what we would recommend, in addition to having a living wage, that we look at ensuring that our public dollars are going to support full-time permanent work, fair scheduling, paid sick days, ensuring that regardless of how workers are hired, whether they're temporary or part-time, that they ensure that they get equal pay for equal work, that we don't encourage contract flipping. And again, these are all critical issues that the government at the provincial level is looking at, not just for a city, but for the entire province, and ensuring that all workers get access to decent wages and working conditions. So we believe that finally the city should be fully responsible for the wages and employment standards of contracted employees. When we find that subcontractors and contractors are not having full responsibility, that's where things start to go down. And that's where we start to get calls on our hotline, and where workers start to come forward with violations of their rights, with workers being fearful of speaking out, with not getting access to the provisions within contracts because they're afraid of losing their jobs. And if the city wants to get tainted with those kinds of working conditions, then that's what's going to happen if you don't have the kinds of checks and balances like these tool assessments to ensure that what you're doing is making sure that workers are fundamentally are actually working for you and for me as a taxpayer, and making sure that they have access to decent jobs. And I think that I expect the city, and I think many people do, and I think people are expecting the province and all levels of government to ensure that workers have decent wages, especially also in the context of today, when we've just seen a report, another report being released with the City of Toronto having the highest child poverty levels in the entire country. Those children are connected to families. Those families are connected to workers. Those workers need decent work and need to ensure that the city plays a role in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, you had a question?
Just wondered, thank you for coming. I just wondered if you could clarify again the kinds of provisions that might be in a contract other than the fair wage.
Yes. So with the Changing Workplace Review, they're actually doing a sort of a systemic analysis of the root causes of precarious employment. And some of the factors that the province are looking at in terms of ensuring that precarious employment does not spread and does not increase, and ensures that workers actually have decent wages is things like fair scheduling. So making sure that workers have 2 weeks notice of their work schedule so that they can plan their lives. Job protected paid sick days are actually quite critical, and it's one of the things that are actually being reviewed as well. Equal pay for equal work. So ensuring that regardless of the type of work that you're doing, if you're doing the same job as someone else, regardless of how you're hired, you'll ensure that you're getting the pay and benefits that are equal. Ensuring that when business ownerships change hands, that workers don't lose their jobs and that the new contractor doesn't clean house. This is a huge issue right now at Pearson Airport, where we've seen a massive increase in contract flipping, and wages basically go from, potentially $16, $17 an hour. A contract flips, everybody goes back down to minimum wage. They lose their paid sick days and their benefits, and workers start back up again. And so to ensure that that does not happen, And also to ensure that the Fair Wage Office has extra funds to ensure that if the city is moving forward to contracting out, especially in the next 3 years, because this quality tool hasn't been developed yet. And so how are you going to monitor, how are you going to ensure that all of those contracts are actually living up to fair standards? And so you need enforcement officers out there to ensure that those contracts are being, adhered to.
When is the provincial government expected to have this review complete? It's been a long time now.
Yeah, so basically in the spring of 2017, the final report will be coming out. The special advisor's recommendations to the government will be coming out. So yes, definitely, sort of like March, April of 2017.
The other thing I wondered about was health and safety, Ministry of Labor inspections, and reporting on those things. Is that something else that
Health and
we've been
safety,
asking?
yeah, health and safety was a huge issue, is a huge issue with contracted out workers, and is a huge issue in the Changing Workplace Review right now. And that is why the enforcement issue is really important, so that the government is also realizing, the provincial government is understanding that you can't have 20 inspectors for the entire province to inspect 370,000 workplaces. So with the City of Toronto, when you're looking at $24 million going out in contracts, how are you ensuring that the contracts that you've done are adhered to, that there's not further subcontracting happening? And a big issue is misclassification of workers. So what we find is subcontractors then hire people, misclassify them as self-employment, especially in cleaning. It's rampant. And so enforcement, strong enforcement to ensure health and safety, and that workers are actually getting paid properly, and also human rights is also quite important there too.
Okay. And potentially restricting or prohibiting subcontracting or contract flipping. I'm going to ask staff about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that those tools, and again, I think the CWR, the Changing Workplace Review, is a huge resource to develop this job quality assessment tool, because all of these issues have been under consideration for the last 2 years, and there's been there's been 12 academic papers written on this, over 250 submissions. There's a 320-page report. I mean, so there is a massive amount of research that the city can use in order to develop that tool in a good way.
Other questions of the deputy? Seeing none. Thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate your perspective.
Thank you.
The next deputy, Mr. Tim McGuire, President of QPE Local 79. Morning, Mr. McGuire. Thanks for coming in.
Morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. In addition to my comments, we've provided a briefing note for your consideration. It's a little more extensive than my comments are going to be. So Local 79 is recommending that this committee, council, direct staff to develop a job quality assessment tool within 6 months and make the tool a mandatory step in the review and potential and renewal of cleaning contracts for 2018, if indeed you decide to adopt the contract that you're considering. 2, that you convene stakeholders and experts from labor, legal aid, private and nonprofit sectors to advise on the development of the job quality assessment tool. And 3, to ensure the City of Toronto's Fair Wage Office is properly resourced to monitor and enforce adherence to any new employment standards that emerge from the Quality Job Assessment Tool. So the City is about to consider signing a large contract for cleaning services without the Job Quality Assessment Tool to ensure people cleaning in buildings, city buildings, have good, stable jobs. In 2013, Council called for the Job Quality Assessment Tool due to serious concerns about wages and working conditions in private cleaning companies. The City was contracted out to. The City had contracted out to. It's been 3 years. Those same cleaning contracts are on the table, and so with no way to assess whether workers have access to a living wage, regular, reliable hours, paid sick leave, and benefits. As part of the poverty reduction strategy in 2015, the city strengthened and broadened its commitment to good jobs through its poverty reduction strategy. Specifically, it committed to championing living wages across Toronto, develop a job quality assessment tool, and apply it to city jobs, city contracted jobs, and procurement. I just want to be clear, we're not talking about having to go through all of the jobs at the city and apply a living wage. Most city jobs, full-time jobs, are already consistent with a living wage. And we're not talking about necessarily every minimum wage job or slightly above minimum wage job, therefore getting the living wage, but in the amalgamation of the issues, ensuring that the city applies things like better, more reliable hours of work, et cetera, or any other parts of a quality job assessment tool be applied. But particularly in contractor jobs and procurement, we think that the city needs to be applying it there. It has decided to and needs to move forward. So it's important to apply it to city jobs as well, because as we're about to hear from Rob, one of the city's cleaners, some of those jobs don't meet that mark yet either. And another recent example to demonstrate the point further, the city developed under its youth job strategy on pay jobs at the city and its agencies, such as this example is a senior program leader at Toronto Community Housing Corporation. And the pay program is for people that are on assistance, getting good jobs, decent jobs, getting some experience. Then this was part of the youth employment strategy in our bargaining units, but not consulted with, and we could have said something like we're saying here, this job is being paid $12.70 an hour. That's not a decent wage in the city. The tools necessary to protect vulnerable groups, particularly in cleaning, where women and recent immigrants are in large numbers in that sector and being put at risk without an assessment tool. Staff needs the capacity to undertake the development and implementation. So we're urging that the social development and finance section, which is currently 12% gapped, and the Fair Wage Office be properly resourced to follow through. There are lots of resources out there that could guide the city. We're not reinventing the wheel here. That's why we're recommending experts can be convened, the United Way and Toronto Neighbourhood Centres and Ontario Nonprofit Network. I have a decent work charter and a checklist that we can use. So we're recommending the city move ahead. It's been 3 years now. Let us get it done. If the city is actually looking at amalgamating these contracts and actually wants to make sure that past misdeeds by subcontractors don't happen, then get on the job quality assessment tool that we've already agreed we need. So let's get it done.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. Any questions of the deputant? Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
The next deputant, Mr. Rob Carnell.
Good morning.
Mr. Carnell, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
It's actually Carnell.
Sorry, Mr. Carnell, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready. I apologize.
No, not a problem. I guess I'm here because I'm actually the living of this actual thing. I actually previously worked for 27 years at a company, and it was doomed after we started outsourcing, and it ended up overseas, and so it was a long career, 27 years. So I haven't seen too many jobs. This is my second job in my life, is with the City of Toronto, full-time job that is, or part-time. I started with the city in 2009 as a part-time cleaner. After a couple of years and some hard work, I became a full-time temporary employee. So again, at this point, it gave me some ability to plan out the rest of my working days and time with the family. But due to some cuts in contracting out in 2012, it has all changed. And at my age, that's changes as easy. I was given the choice of layoff or go back to the part-time unit. I chose the part-time unit as I sit in front of you today. What this has meant to me is I no longer have the same ability to plan my life and my family's life due to non-reliable work. And when I say that, I mean I used to work, and at times now I still work close to full-time hours as a cleaner. But at any time, I could be changed to 10 hours or 15 hours a week. and has a huge impact on your planning for your life. Also, along with that, there's, obviously wage losses, benefit losses, pension reduction. Benefits costs actually go up when you lose work, so that's a double whammy. So as your hours go down, your cost of benefits go up. And of course, with loss of hours. But with that said, I'm still very lucky compared to others. My fear as a father and a grandfather is what's in the future for our young workers, our young families, and our new families. These groups and more are the future of our city. They are just starting out and face hard times if things do not improve. Things such as unreliable work, poor wages, poor working condition, and this one speaks to my heart, is family time. There's absolutely no time to plan for your family if you don't know when you're working. I work with several people that work 3 jobs because they don't know when to work, when they're going to work, hours are coming from. It's unfair to the worker, it's unfair to the workplace. They want to be committed, but they cannot be committed because the city will not commit to them. We are the City of Toronto. I believe that. I lived in the City of Toronto all my life. We have to lead in this fight to ensure this happens and we stay a world-class city to work and live. I'll speak to the job itself. Since the cuts and contracting out, we have seen a decline of care and cleaning. It has become more acceptable. It's an awful thing to say, is just do the basics. Workloads have increased and the hours have been reduced. This does not sit well with me, and I know does not sit well with most. We are here to do a job, and we are proud of our job to do. The service we provide is very important to us. As far as the job quality assessment tool, what it means to me is that there'll be no one work, just not for myself and for others, and if there happen to be contracted out for them, where you can actually plan your life. Life is very important, family is very important. You'll know your set hours, a number of hours, know your schedule. Can you imagine not knowing if you're working next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? It's not a way to go through life. Decent benefits and good working conditions. And I think we spoke to health and safety and all that kind of stuff. As we know, as it gets subbed out to subbed out to subbed out, the levels of care go down, and so does the levels of safety and everything else. Really, that's all I have to say today. I just employ that to really think that people, I actually was up at TPS, I think they call it now, it used to be EMS, last week, and the commander up there spoke so well, and he spoke of the employees. He said they have lives too, and that's the most important thing. They have family lives and they have lives, and they should be taking care of the people of the City of Toronto because we are the City of Toronto. And I appreciate the time I was given here today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carnell. Councillor McConnell, I saw your hand. You had a question?
Yes, I do. First of all, I want to thank you. It was really a very moving deputation, and I think that when we hear it from people who are living it, it helps to understand how our decision-making happens and what we need to do. I wanted to know, when you were full-time, what was your location?
I actually work out of police headquarters.
Yes.
So it's 40 hours a week, and probably right now I'm still working 40 hours a week, but
Yes.
the huge difference is that next week I could be working 10 hours.
Right. So,
That is the fear.
yes. And I recall that that was a saving to the budget of about $2 million, which we fought over and over and over again, and then finally came in. But at the moment, what I heard is a sense of pride has been lost. Is that correct amongst your fellow workers?
I believe so. I think there's a sense of pride, and like I said, I've spent 27 years myself at a previous job, so obviously I'm not a job
Yes.
seeker. I dedicate myself to family and to my job. But yes, there's been some pride loss, thinking that they were setting us up, I hate to say it, set us up to fail,
Yes.
not giving us tools to do our job. We want to do our job. We're proud of our jobs. We just want to be given the chance and the proper time to do our jobs.
Right. And what has been the extent of on your fellow workers around stress?
huge. Like I said, there's many, you see it in the workplace. It used to be a decent workplace, and still is a decent work, don't get me wrong, but the stress, people are picking up their second job. Some people are picking up a third job. So obviously the quality of life just to live has gone down. I mean, it's just unbelievable. These guys get to work just in time to do another 5, 6 hours work, 7 hours work, and then are off to another workplace. I don't know how. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm on the twilight of my career.
Yes.
But these young families, how they make it through, I'll never know. I'll never know how they spend time with their kids. For me now, it's my grandkids.
Yes.
But the stress is just unbelievable.
And I suppose also the tiredness, because if not for you perhaps, but for others who are just trying to manage more than one job.
More than one job, and actually the workloads have gone up because the hours have been decreased, so they're asked to do more in less time, and they want to hold on to that, keep their work level up, because we do not want to see these jobs going anywhere. We want to do our jobs, so yes.
Thank you. And as you know, I was the chair of the Police Services Board,
yes.
and our cleaning staff were always quite remarkable, and it very much upset me when we went to losing those very dedicated workers. Thank you for
Thank you.
your story. Thank you.
So I'm trying to understand, there were some recommendations made by the Audit Committee earlier in the year, and it had to do with workloading and using an industry standard. Have you changed, or has the city changed how workloading is assessed and how many hours are assigned? Are they doing that already?
I haven't seen anything, to be honest, of that. All I know is when I started at headquarters, I believe it was 2 years ago, there was like 8 full-timers and 4 part-timers, which is a certain amount of hours, and now it's reversed. It's now part-timers doing less hours and far less full-timers. So my simple answer is no. We're not getting assessed to the work we're doing, and we're not able to do the job we want to do because of the hours. So no, I would say no, we're not giving it.
So how is your work allocated? Like, are you told what you need?
Yes, the work areas have not changed.
Yeah.
The amount of hours have been reduced in most cases.
Oh, I see. Just same work, fewer hours to do it in,
Yes.
which results in
Poor work and not be able to do our
Quality
job.
slipping.
Quality slipping, yeah, I spoke to it. You know, the cleanliness has dropped, there's no doubt. People are trying their best. They're working 2 jobs, you know, and trying to do the job. But if you have 8 hours of work and you're given 6 or 7 hours to do it, that's all you can do.
Does anyone assess the cleanliness?
Well, we have a foreman on site and it works. I mean, Scott spoke to the police. I work in the police services. They're very thankful and they're very professional, but they see the difference. They understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to do our jobs, but they understand we're not given the time to do the jobs. So yes, they would see a little difference. I see the difference. So if I see the difference, they should see the difference.
But there's no formal way of identifying the quality or the quantity of cleaning going on that you're
No, I think that would speak to the assessment tool again, I guess. I think it spoke to the job quality assessment. We don't really have anything in place, no. There's nothing in place, no.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The last deputant is Yojendra Chakra, Senior Research Analyst, Access Alliance, Decent Work, and Health Network. Morning, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good morning, council members, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm an assistant professor at the Dalanan School of Public Health, and I work as a senior research scientist at a community health center in Toronto called Access Alliance. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Decent Work and Health Network. The Decent Work and Health Network is made up of healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, health promoters, occupational therapists, etc., who are deeply concerned about the rise of precarious, low-wage jobs in Canada and how this is impacting our health and our healthcare system. For the last 10 years, we've been conducting research and synthesizing evidence from around the world on how job security, job quality impacts health. Based on this, we can tell you that there is an overwhelming body of evidence from Canada and globally that precarious jobs are resulting in seriously damaging impacts on the health of hardworking families. Compared to workers in stable jobs with benefits, precarious workers are 2 to 3 times more likely to incur fatal occupational injuries at work. They're also at much higher risk for developing a host of illnesses, including ulcers, musculoskeletal disorders, migraine headaches, asthma, depression, anxiety, sleep disorders, as well as serious chronic health issues like heart disease, diabetes, and cancers. The evidence on this could not be stronger. Precarious jobs combined with low wage constitute the most critical determinant of health. The most telling evidence on this actually comes from UK-based research called the Whitehall Studies that followed 28,000 government employees over several decades. Thus, we are joining voices with CUPE Local 79 and many other organizations in recommending to City Council to introduce bold policy solutions and safeguard measures to stop the rise of precarious jobs in Toronto, starting with its own workforce. As an essential step, we call on this committee and the council to first develop and implement the job quality assessment tool before making any major decisions to contract out services, particularly services like cleaning that tend to experience sharp decline in job security, wages, and employee well-being when contracted out. If we fail to do this, we'll add fuel to the vicious race to the bottom trend in Toronto. Yes, Toronto is the richest city in Canada, accounting for 11% of Canada's GDP, and yet this city holds the unfortunate title of being the child poverty capital, the working poverty capital, the precarious job capital, and the most unequal city in Canada. Nothing could be more sad and ironic. And these are the stats that keep me up, and I reviewed the stats last night, so it really kept me up. Studies show that more than half of the jobs in Toronto and surrounding regions are precarious and insecure. Government and nonprofit sector are among the worst contributors to this rise in precarious and low-wage jobs. During the last couple of years, there has been a marked increase in outsourcing of cleaning and custodial jobs. Immigrant and racialized women tend to be overrepresented in this sector. The City of Toronto's own staff report from 2013 documented how outsourcing of cleaning services in other cities led to decline in wage, job security, and workers' health. In another study with outsourced hospital cleaners and support workers in BC, 1/3 reported having to work more than two or three jobs just to make ends meet, and 63% reporting getting sick or injured in their current job. Any short-term savings from outsourcing and reducing wage and job security, we end up paying heavily through downstream social costs and with our health. For example, analysis by the Canadian Council for Policy Alternatives found that cleaners working in the private sector are 4 times more likely to access social assistance than those working in the public sector. If we outsource cities' cleaning jobs, especially without implementing the job quality assessment tool, we will be directly responsible for putting workers at risk, at higher risk for numerous health issues, including workplace injuries, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Further, it'll worsen the already higher rates of gender wage gap and racialized poverty in Toronto, making this city even more unequal. We need to work together to stop this from happening. We strongly recommend that the City Council prioritize the development and implementation of the Job Quality Assessment Tool. The Job Quality Assessment Tool needs to include provisions for assessing and promoting living wage, job security, regular and reliable hours, workers' safety and training, paid sick days, and other benefits for both in-house and outsourced jobs for the city. Moreover, the decisions you have in front of you is more profound. It is about what kind of city and what kind of society we want to create. Do you want to go with the flow in terms of outsourcing and precarious jobs to save short-term costs?
Excuse me, sir, if you wrap up, please.
In spite of evidence that this will make Torontonians very sick? Or do you want to boldly challenge these powerful forces to create a make City of Toronto a city of good jobs and healthy workforce? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputant? Seeing none. Okay. Thank you very much for coming in this morning. We'll bring it into committee. I don't see any outside members here. Councillor Davis, questions of staff?
I've already asked questions, and I guess
Okay?
I
so
just
we'll move
want
on
them, answers to be public. So all of the provisions for this contract were already included. It was put out, the call was put out, and the result is back, and we have no ability to make any suggestions for any changes to the terms and conditions of this contract. Is that correct? At this point?
Through the chair, I'm sure Michael will add to it. We have put the provisions in. We actually have increased the health and safety requirements, the reporting requirements, also the subcontract.
No, my question was, at this point, we have no ability to.
Absolutely, we do not at this point.
Yeah. So when we review the role of counselors in the procurement process, which I believe is going to be coming in the future, are you going to consider putting this process up front so that we have a chance to review the scope, the budget, and the role of counselors in that process?
Through the chair, that'll be part of the consideration, but also as well as the job quality assessment tool may accomplish some of that, of the issue you're trying to get at.
Okay. The Ministry of Labor inspections and orders, are they going to be required to submit information on that?
Through the chair, can you clarify past
Ministry
MOL orders or on the current contract?
Through the contract.
Yes, through the chair, if there was an MOL order against the contract, the city would be made aware of it at the same time.
Okay. The question of subcontracting, our policy currently prohibits this from having any subcontractors, correct?
Through the chair, for custodial services, the direction from council is prohibiting subcontracting unless in an emergency situation. And if there is such a situation, I'm to report back to GMC on when that's been used.
Okay. And flipping of contracts, which was talked about today, sort of mid-contract, I guess flipping it to another company is what I think is suggested here. This would prohibit that from occurring, or would require a report back to council?
Through the chair, if the contract was trying to be assigned to another vendor, then yes, we would have to get authority to move that contract to the new vendor.
Okay. Now, the other things that were reported to be added to the contract were the changes that were recommended by the auditor in 2016. And they had to do, first of all, it recommends on page 3 that we reduce, the reduction in operating costs is attributed to the standardization of service levels. It says there is $850,000 in savings from reduced custodial service levels. And also that this estimate is contingent upon timing of service level changes. So what are the service level and performance changes that are contained in the 2017 budget as identified in here and are included in this contract?
So through the chair, the facilities team has been working to adjust those requirements through the contract. We essentially have put measures and practices in place so that we can measure, monitor the amount and level of service. And in particular, this is done through collaborative work through the whole city. We formed a Facilities Management Service Standards Committee, and we established a baseline standard of cleaning for the whole city, including all agencies, boards, and commissions, as well as the city departments. So, in fact, we're in a position today where we have very clear transparency around the cleaning standards and expectations and requirements. And we have put management structure in place so that we can monitor and enforce those cleaning standards. So that variance, that potential saving of the $850K is a reflection of those particular locations moving to a citywide standard.
But it says the standards were reduced.
In these cases, through the chair, as for the example of the police headquarters, in some cases there was a higher level of care or cleaning that was taking place. And now with this new contract, we would move to the citywide standard.
So is the citywide standard lower than the current standard? Is what I'm asking. What,
Sorry, Councillor Davis, it says service level changes, not service level standard.
no, what I just heard was that the police headquarters had a standard that was higher and was going to be reduced.
I think that there's a finesse to that statement. There's a baseline service standard, and then there's a secondary level and a tertiary level of service. So currently, if we go to the baseline service standard, then that would be the level they would be receiving.
How do we find out what that means? We have no service standard information here.
Well, there is a openly published facilities management service standard for the cleaning, so that is openly available. And that has been agreed and reviewed by all these various departments we've been working with across the city.
Okay, so we have a workloading system that reflects the best practices in the industry now. That's going to be required
Last
in this
question,
contract.
Councillor.
Yes, we are in progress with applying a workloading system. Over the last 1 or 2 months, we have started to apply that philosophy and that methodology.
And it's in here.
Yes.
Councillor McConnell, you have questions?
Questions. So I have a motion that I'll be putting forward with regards to getting the assessment tool done. That was a direction from executive anyway, but I'm wondering whether or not staff from facilities as well as from social development would comment on that to the committee. Are you in support of the motion that's being placed?
Through the chair, through the facility side, we are in support of the motion.
Thank you. And from social development?
Yes, we're also supportive of the motion.
And if we were to add, can you talk about your consultation with stakeholders and where you are with that?
So to date, we have created an interdivisional working group with different divisions that have a particular interest within the job assessment tool. And we've had some initial conversations with some community leaders as well as some labor advocates to better understand the issues and to help us develop the tool. I think in order for us to further develop the tool and finalize it to bring forward the tool for council consideration, we would need greater engagement with the employer community as well as some other stakeholders.
Okay, so you would have no concern if I added that to the motion as well?
No, not at all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions of staff? Sorry, I just wanted to ask a few. So one of the deputants, their comment was made about contract flipping. And so the process that we have in place here with this contract, is that guard against contract flipping?
So through the chair, the contract has a no assignment clause without getting approval from city council or from city staff. That would deal with contracts during the life, any attempts during the life of a flip. But in terms of, at this stage, we're transitioning from an existing provider to a new provider, and then there'll be Employment Standard Act provisions that will kick in with respect to any employees that are affected by that, that are the vendor employees that are affected by that.
Okay. And this is fully monitored by the Fair Wage Office?
Through the chair, the Fair Wage Office monitors with respect to the fair wage policy, and Mark can add any additional comments.
Yes, in the event that there is a complaint, we have the ability to investigate and ensure that the contractor is paying the appropriate wage rate in accordance to the city's fair wage schedule.
Okay. And the concept of subcontracting was brought up, and I believe that somebody said that subcontracting is only allowed if there's an emergency. And for that to take place, it needs city approval, correct? They just can't say we had an emergency and we subcontracted out, we just want to let you know.
Through the chair, it would require the approval from facilities management, and then it would be reported to me for me to report to the government management committee. If there's an emergency, there would not be time to report to committee.
Correct. Okay. And also around the, I believe it was Mr. Carnell that brought up the concept of subcontracting. We don't allow for that at all.
Through the chair, when we're prohibiting subcontracting, it would by definition extend to subcontracting. So that would be prohibited as well.
Okay. And then the other issue that Mr. Carnell brought up about was around scheduling, and that there seems to be last minute adjustments, or, you know, he doesn't know, he said from week to week, he's unclear about how many hours he's going to get the next week. Do we not schedule, like most companies schedule in like 2-week periods, so you know what you're doing for the next 2 weeks?
So through the
Do we not allow that, or is that not done, or?
Through the chair, there is a scheduling process. We will speak to the employee and have that discussion, understand that a little bit more. So there is a scheduling process. Yes, we do have one.
Okay, but is that allowed in, so what we're approving today, is that allowed now, or is it going to be allowed, or? So if I'm working as a cleaner, I have no idea what I'm working next week, or for the next 2 weeks, or?
No.
I would expect that, through the chair, I would expect that we would provide for that capability so that the workers can plan for their scheduling.
Sorry, Sunil, I missed, you said you expect, or that's being done?
It should be done. I cannot say affirmatively that it is being done, but I expect that it should be done.
What we will do is have a conversation with the management and report back to yourself as to if it's done or not. It is expected out of management to do that. That's part of their job. So we'll have that discussion. Maybe it's a nuance here, and we need to understand it.
Okay, because I just think that's setting a really bad example if we're awarding contracts
We totally
for people that are working, their schedule is being done week to week. I think that's a horrible example for us to be doing and leading with.
We agree with you, and we will have that conversation with our management team.
Okay, thank you. All right. Sorry, you had almost 6 minutes, and you said you asked your questions. Okay, Councillor Davis would like 3 more questions.
I'm just wondering, so there were some other suggestions. So you're going to check on scheduling and whether there's fair scheduling in this contract. The trouble is, there's nothing we can do at this point, I guess. Equal pay, is there equal pay for equal work provisions?
It's the fair wage policy that would apply, or if the company is bound to a collective agreement, the provisions of the collective agreement would apply.
No, but there's, that everyone gets paid the same for the same work. There's a provision for that.
There's 2 classifications in the fair wage schedule, light-duty cleaner and a heavy-duty cleaner. So there are 2 different rates.
And one assumes everyone is paid those
That's correct.
same rates.
That's correct.
And you have an ability to investigate and make sure that those rates are paid the same?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So
Councillor Davis,
what is
that
the
was
pay?
3 questions.
Is the pay, so the pay rates will be the same as what is in the fair wage policy, but if someone is working now for this contractor and there is then a new contractor, are their pay rates, do those pay rates recognize the years of service that worker got paid for, or any wage increases they got during the term of the last contract? Or do they go back to the bottom of the grid? Or how do you ensure that when this contract goes in, the people who are currently working under contract get paid the same? Because I know what happened with the security guards. A new contract came in, and the same person sitting at the desk was getting paid $4 less an hour when the new contract came in. With a different, he just put on a different uniform, and got paid less.
Councillor Davis, do you have a question?
Yeah, so how do we guarantee the wages that are currently being paid don't roll back with the new contract?
Well, the contract clearly identifies the fair wage schedule, and we will hold that company accountable to ensure that those rates are paid.
And does it have years of service, or how much people have? Presumably, over the years, there have been some increases in wages. Will those wages be recognized?
There is no seniority type restrictions in the policy, so the rate that's actually in the schedule will be applied whether you're first year employee, second year, third year, or fourth year.
They get paid the same rate every year, no matter what?
That's correct.
No matter the number of years of experience or number of years they've worked there?
That is correct. Now, mind you, the fair wage schedules will be updated periodically, and based on the updated rates, they will be applied accordingly.
And when is it intended to be up?
We're intending on updating the fair wage schedules within the first quarter of 2017.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, just to clarify, the fair wage policy doesn't mean that there wouldn't be increases that the vendor may give to their employees. It's just the base comparison point that the Fair Wage Office uses to ensure that they're being paid fairly. Not that it has to be for the 4 or 5 year contract that they're only paid at the fair wage rate.
And my question is, what assures that those people who may be paid more than the minimum rate continue to get that rate under a new contract? That was my question. Are there any provisions that protect the wages of the people who are paid more than that minimum?
Through the chair, I would say no specifically. They would follow the changes with the Employment Standards Act provisions, and then the fair wage rate would apply, or a collective bargaining agreement would apply depending on the vendor.
What if they're not employees? How does the Employment Standards Act apply?
If I recall correctly, they would be paid out for not continuing the service. If the vendor chooses not to take on the employee, they have an obligation to pay them out at a certain rate.
Oh, I see. Of course, they could get rid of them altogether, is what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll bring it speakers. Councillor McConnell, you had a motion you wanted to move?
Thank you very much. So this, of course, is always bittersweet because there's a very sad history behind this, and the contracting out of cleaners, as we know, has been very controversial by members of council. And people like me have objected to that, and objected to it when I was on the police board as well. However, there's a reality that we have quite a number of these contracts that went out, and as a result of that, we've now amalgamated those into one contract, which I would argue, oh, sorry, I've got to mention it first, sorry. So my motions really would be to get the poverty reduction assessment tool for quality jobs done by, I hope by the second, for sure by the second quarter, but I hope we should have that before the summer break and approved before the summer break. And that would move us into a second piece, which would allow us to look at this contract within the context of that assessment tool. So if I could just talk a little bit about what is my concern. I believe that on page 5, a lot of the issues that were brought up have been addressed, which are the issues of the Auditor General, which wrote a very good report with regards to that, and I understand that many of these things have been rolled into the contract that has gone out. One of the things that I asked for was that all cleaning contracts would come back to this committee. We do know, and the Councillor Davis is not incorrect, that happens after the fact, not before the fact, and we've been trying over and over again to see where councillors appropriately can have their input. So it does come as a fait accompli, but it also allows us to really look at what are the opportunities here. So the opportunity for me, anyway, is to really get this job quality assessment tool done. We know that we've been working on it. It's part of our work plan. And we know that we're partway there, but I would like to have it completed. It would have been better if it had been completed before we do this, but I would argue that in fact, well, first of all, this contract could be delayed, but it wouldn't really make much sense because all we would do is we'd have 4 or 5 disparate contracts of which we have no quality control. I think that part of the argument for going to one was that, first of all, there would be a larger number of opportunities and job sites for the employees of the company. Secondly, you know, that this company as well as others were unionized, so I think it's up to their union also to really monitor their workplace and how that works. And secondly, to really try to make sure that in future we have the job quality assessment tool ready on any contracts that go on. I think that from my perspective, the upside, I suppose, was that there are no further contracting out, but there is of cleaners, but it is always my deep regret that the people who are least able to make a decent living wage are the ones that are first to go out the door. So from my perspective, the stress that we heard from our deputant, the kind of impact, we need to make sure that we as employers, I believe that we are one of the 100 best employees in the country. Seems to me that we have a little ways to go in order to really make sure that our workers get that respect and the pride comes back to their work, and that we do that through making sure that these policies are in place to protect them and to protect our contracts. So with that, I'd finish that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any questions of the mover? Seeing none. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Davis, you wanted to speak?
And I will support Councillor McConnell's motion. And I do want to commend her, and particularly for the second motion, which says, before this one-year option comes back here, we want this work done. Because it began in 2013. And the reason we did that in 2013, and Councillor McConnell led that work, was because we said, here we are on one hand talking about good work, good jobs, and dealing with inequality in the City of Toronto, and on the other hand, as the employer, we are doing the exact opposite. We are contributing to creating more precarious, racialized, low-paid work in the City of Toronto. And that hypocrisy is what I have a really hard time living with. And I suspect that we're going to see more contracting out. That's the direction that's being taken in the long-term financial plan. We're coming back with another consultant round of looking at alternative service delivery models. And there's nothing complex about this. There is a corporation that is making profits and siphoning it out of the workers and hiring them just in time. And all of the studies in the last few years have demonstrated how precarious part-time work has now become the norm. And it's frightening. And the most recent job statistics that came out last week show once again, while we've got job growth in this country, it is predominantly part-time work. And we know what it does to health and well-being of families and people who are working unbelievable numbers of hours, unpredictable hours, and who are holding 2 and 3 jobs and are beholden to temp agencies. Temp agencies that also demand loyalty. If you work for Kelly Services, you can't work for this other temp agency, and yet, you know, I know women who are doing it all the time and feeling like they're hiding because they're working for one and pretending they're not when they're working for others. And they're getting called up the day before to go in, or hours before, to go in to do 3 hours of packing boxes because it's just come off the assembly line. So this just-in-time labor, precarious work model that is so exploitative is something that we're contributing to when we do this and contract out cleaning work. And I hope, I mean, when we get the next budget, that we aren't going to see all those purple papers that see the reduction of full-time jobs and contracting out of more work. Because I think we ought to start a thermometer of jobs lost to contracting out at the City of Toronto, so we can measure how many more jobs we've full-time, well-paid jobs we've eliminated due to contracting out. And anyway, I will support those motions, but I'm not going to vote for the overall report. Thank you. And we do have to fix where we have input in the contract, in the contracting process. When we put out proposal calls, we need to have our input at the beginning so that we can look at putting in things like, they must submit the Ministry of Labor orders and inspections. Yes, they must tell us what the hours are of their workers and that they have a fair scheduling system. Now, hopefully, with the job assessment tool, we'll be able to require that in the next round when these contracts are renewed. And lastly, we are lowering the standard of cleaning. So in the police stations, and we're doing exactly what we heard. We're asking people to do more work with fewer hours. And I think that also is very unfair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. So we have one motion on the floor from Councillor McConnell. If we can put it on the screen. All in favor? Record a vote. All right. All in favor of the motion? Councillor McConnell, Councillor Nunziata, Councillor Davis, Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Grimes. It passes unanimously. And then item is amended. All in favor? Opposed? And that passes. Councillor Grimes, you have the bills.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Government Management Committee passed and declares a bylaw, a confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceedings by the Government Management Committee acting under delegated authority of its meeting held on November 14, 2016.
All in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.